Win there for Mark Carney, the central bank governor, now Prime Minister. Let's get some analysis. I'm joined by Professor of Political Science at the University of Toronto, Dr Larry Leduc. Thanks for your time. Tell us, Larry, how big a presence did Donald Trump have in overshadowing this campaign and driving this vote for the incumbent Liberal Party?
Hi, Kieran. It's not all about Trump, but a large part of it is. I think we could mention three things. First of all is the tariffs that Trump imposed, and then there's Mark Carney, who has seemed to be, for many Canadians, the right person coming along at the right time, not part of the Trudeau government, coming in from outside, and able to present himself successfully as a new face, which the opposition tried to claim he really wasn't. But I think the fact that he is new, not part of the Trudeau cabinet, and with Trump as president, that combination has, I think, led to the revival of the Liberals and the success in this election.
And the economic credibility that he brings with it, having been a central bank governor in Canada and the United Kingdom.
Yes, and again, that's a combination. I think the fact that he was the governor of the central bank in Canada makes him a little better known than he might have been otherwise. And the fact that he was also governor of the Bank of England gives him a very strong resume for his new role as Prime Minister.
Not that long ago, we're looking at the polls, Trudeau and the Liberal Party, they were struggling. It was almost a guarantee that the opposition, the Conservatives, would win. How things have changed so dramatically over the last 4 or 5 months, Larry?
Yes, well, Trudeau very much wanted to lead his party into the election, which had to take place before October. And had he done so, it almost certainly would have been a disaster for the Liberals. But he was in a way forced out by his own party caucus in Parliament. And although they couldn't vote him out, they managed to persuade him to resign. And then when he resigned, it opened the door for a new leader, Mark Carney. And then as soon as Trump became president, the whole context of the election changed. So, and that's led to where we are tonight. And I'm just seeing the networks here are just calling the Liberal victory now, but we still don't know how decisive it is because the polls have just closed in British Columbia. And there are enough seats in British Columbia that may make the difference between a majority and a minority government. And in Canadian politics, the difference between a majority and a minority can be quite significant, because in a minority government, there's always the possibility that it might not be able to survive for very long.
Yes, interesting. Yeah, we're only a few days away from our next election, where that same question is about to be answered on the weekend with our federal election. But a similar dynamic, not to the same extent that you've seen there in Canada, but the Trump effect is having an impact in our campaign. Larry, I'm keen to get your thoughts as a professor of political science on two main things. One, on the Canadian sentiment, that Donald Trump has shifted that sentiment towards the United States. If you can reflect on that for us and how that has played in to the politics.
Yeah, it's done a couple of various things. It's made Canadians very fearful about what the economic future is going to be like in Canada, especially since we have a very strong free trade agreement with the United States, and the Americans are effectively tearing up that agreement. So it has the potential to cause enormous economic disruption in Canada. And so I think that feeling of fear has made many Canadian voters look for greater security, and a figure like Mark Carney provides that. But the second thing, of course, is that Trump, by talking about Canada as a future state, claiming that Canada is an artificial country that shouldn't really exist, that has really ramped up nationalism in Canada, and it's made Canadians angry and anxious to retaliate against the Americans in whatever way they can, by boycotting American products, and also by voting for someone that they think will be an effective counterweight to Trump.
We've seen, and I've been watching closely, some of the ice hockey and the booing at matches against American teams, which is that nationalism on show. But I wonder from if we look out and put our diplomat's hat on, is there a way that Mark Carney can dial this back a bit? We know what Trump's like and his approach. He likes to, the art of the deal. It's all about trying to push those trading partners, allies or foes, into a deal. How does Mark Carney come across to the electorate? Can you give us a sense of what he's like? Will he be able to do this diplomatic dance with the man in the Oval Office?
It's hard to know how he's going to deal with Trump exactly. The idea that you can stand up to Trump just person to person is probably not the case, really, because you don't know what Trump is going to do on the next day or the day after. Probably what will happen, and I'm only speculating here, is that there'll be some back and forth about the tariffs, and at some point the trade war is going to end, and Trump will declare victory, and it may be that then things will begin to settle back into a more normal pattern. But there's no way to know that for sure. But the idea that you can simply reorganize world trade by executive order and impose tariffs on everyone unilaterally doesn't seem to be something that is really viable as an economic policy very far into the future. And it could be that once Carney is in office, that whatever happens between the United States and China may begin to overshadow somewhat the relations with Canada and may cause Trump to direct his attentions elsewhere for a while.
Yeah, that's a very good point. A very good point indeed. Thank you, Dr. Larry Leduc, Professor of Political Science at Toronto University.